So welcome, everybody. It was about 5.5 years ago, Rick called me, said, I'm fat. My church is fat. Will you help me?
Let me tell that story because literally it happened in a baptism. You remember that?
I do.
On one day, we had a big class 101. I would baptize 857 people on one day, all by me. And like every 25 people, I was switching sides so I wouldn't get a backache. It took me about 4 hours to baptize 800 and some people. And as I'm baptizing, along about number 500, I had a thought go through my mind, and it wasn't a spiritual thought. It was like, good night, we're all fat. And then I thought, but I'm fat, and I'm a terrible model for our church. This is, I was born with an enormous amount of energy. I just naturally have it. And even today, I've got 2 assistants in their 20s, and they have to rotate every other day because I wear them out. And so I never took care of my health. I just had a lot of natural energy. And I just began to put on the pounds. And then I thought, but I can't expect the church to get fit, unless I'm fit. And so the following Sunday, many of you were here that day, when we kicked off the Daniel Plan idea, and then a few months later kicked it off with Dr. Amen and Dr. Hyman, and I said, okay, guys, I need to repent. I said, I've only gained about 2 pounds a year as your pastor, but I've been your pastor 30 years. And I said, well, I need to lose 60, maybe 90 pounds. And so does anybody else want to join me on this? I said, I've got Dr. Daniel Amen, and I've got Dr. Mark Hyman, and at that time, Dr. Mehmet Oz. And I said, and I've asked these guys to put together a plan for me. Anybody want to join me? I figured maybe 200 people would sign up. 12,000 people signed up the first day. And now I'm responsible for the physical health of 12,000 people. And so we put together that plan. But go ahead. That was just a little parentheses.
So let's go to the slides. We have so much to talk about.
We do.
And what I want to do with you tonight and with Rick is really make the Daniel Plan easy for you and give you some very specific takeaways. And the first one is you got to know why. Why do you want to be healthy? You're in a war for the health of your brain and your body. Everywhere you go, someone is trying to shove bad food down your throat, put a toxic thought in your head, addict you to a gadget that steals your attention. I told you this. The human attention span, according to a study from Microsoft, is 8 seconds. A goldfish is 9 seconds. It's the evolution going the wrong way.
The wrong direction.
And because of this, Alzheimer's disease is expected to quadruple. Depression has gone up 400% since 1987. Diabetes is now half of us are diabetic or pre-diabetic. And diabetes, I don't know if any of you, like me, my father-in-law died with diabetes after he lost his eyesight, lost his legs, lost his heart function, then lost his mind. Right? I mean, diabetes is a disaster. I mean, you really understand it. If you've been diagnosed with diabetes or pre-diabetes, you should be anxious enough to do something about it. And obesity is a serious national crisis. 2/3 of us are overweight. 1/3 of us are obese. And I actually published 2 studies. I do brain imaging in my other life. We showed as your weight goes up, the size and function of your brain goes down.
Which, by the way, that's the one that got me. We were sitting on this stage. Daniel was here. I'd invited him to speak, and he started talking about dinosaur brains. And that really got me because I honestly didn't care how I looked. I wasn't interested in, really being, super fantastic shape, stuff like that. But when he talked about, Rick, the more weight you put on, the smaller your brain gets, that got me. Because I live with my brain. My whole ministry, my whole life is dependent upon having a sharp brain. And that was the first thing that got my attention.
And when I read that first study, because a friend of mine had done it earlier at the University of Pittsburgh. I lost 30 pounds.
Huh.
Because there's no way I'm going to have a smaller brain if I can help it. And so you have all these factors against you. It's just own it. It's a war, but God created us. What did you tell me? That the most common analogy in the Bible is warriors.
Yeah, it is, a soldier. The most common analogy for the Christian life is a soldier. The second most common analogy is an athlete. Both of them require discipline and to see that people are actually trying to get you to do the wrong thing all the time.
All the time.
All the time. And we're bombarded with thousands of messages all the time. And we even know now today that they put foods together that make you addicted. It's the Lay's commercial. Bet you can't eat just one.
So they brag about the addictive qualities. So they literally hire neuroscientists so that foods end up in the same part of your brain as the love you have for your children, your wives, or your grandchildren. And that's nuts. So if you're not aware, then you will succumb, and it takes years, sometimes decades off your life. And I'm not okay with that. And so when you called me, I actually felt, because I went to Vanguard University, that's where I was an undergrad, and then I went to Oral Roberts University, that's where I went to medical school. And so I've been a Christian my whole life, but Christian, doctor, brain health, and then he calls me, and it's like, well, you had me from hello.
Yeah. But going back to this, well, that you're a purpose-driven man, and so his purpose was being fulfilled here. So this first thing, if you're going to do any change in your life, we're talking about getting your life together. The starting point is you got to know why.
Why?
Why is always more important than what. When you figure out the why in life, God will show you how. Let me say that again. When you figure out the why, you do what you do in life. God will always show you the how. And so I literally, when I started the journey, had to write down the whys. And the first why was, it was real simple. I want to feel better. Okay, that was obvious. I want to feel better. I want more energy. And then I want my brain to work. Okay, I want my brain to work. I want to live for the glory of God. Your body is a temple. And the Bible says it is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And we abuse that temple. I mean, if we went out and saw a temple with graffiti on it, we would be offended. But we write graffiti on our temple all the time by what we put into it, garbage in, garbage out. And then really this capstone one was the one we were just talking about, love for my family and kids. And when I realized that if I didn't change the way I was going to live my life, eat my life, I'm going to die much sooner than my wife. And I couldn't, having seen the grief that my wife went through with Matthew, I did not want her going through that again. It's an act of love.
I love that.
Yeah,
And you almost made me cry on Saturday night when you were talking about it's an act of mercy to get well for the people you love.
Yeah.
You remember Steve, come on, Polly, who I just
Oh, yeah.
love.
Yeah.
And he said his wife really got after him because she said, if you die early because you consistently made bad decisions, I'm going to be mad at you forever. Yeah. Maybe even into the next life.
Well, the other thing, too, is it's not only you need to get in shape, get healthy, not just for your wife, but for your kids and for your grandkids. I got 5 grandkids now. My grandkids don't know my parents because my parents died before they were old enough to know them. I want my grandkids to know me, and I want their kids and things like that. And so and now we even know this epigenetics thing. Talk about that a minute, because that's a why issue.
Well, ultimately, so what science is teaching us is that your behavior, and you said this right when we started the Daniel Plan, and I loved it, that Americans are all about them, right? It's all about me. Right. Don't tell me what to do because I get to choose. Well, it's not just about you. I mean, if you really understand the science, that your habits turn on or off certain genes that make illnesses more or less likely, yes, in you, but also in your babies and your grandbabies. So if a little boy smokes between the ages of 10 and 12, we know he's just increased the risk of his children having cancer, diabetes, and obesity. And both for males and females, if they eat badly before they're pregnant, they're turning on or off certain genes in their eggs and sperm, making illness more or less likely in their children and their grandchildren. So the sins of the father
fathers
can
are busy.
affect up to 3 to 4
generations,
generations. And when you read that, you go, oh, it's not about me.
Yeah.
That if you love your family, you will demonstrate it in the health acts that you engage in every day. Because they're watching. And you are an example, a good example or not a good example. And, you know, I read these studies and I'm horrified by them, but then, you know, the gift is I get to share them with you. So I want you to be serious. When my daughter was born, she was born with all the eggs she'll ever have. So when you think of a Happy Meal, it's not named right, right? It's marketing, it's a Happy Meal, because really it's an illness meal. It just won't sell much, you know, up on the, you know, when you drive through, it says, oh, illness meal.
Yeah, that's good. You know, one of the most important things, then we'll go on to the second point, is that, that Daniel and Mark both taught me, is that food is not just calories, it's information. The food that you eat has information in it that is feeding your brain and feeding your body. And if you give your body good information, then you're going to have good results. If you give your body bad information, it's not just about calories, guys. It's not just about calories. I'm actually on a food plan right now that has a pretty good amount of calories in it. It happens to be good fat rather than bad fat. And those good, we're actually starving ourselves from good fat. And in the last 50 years, as we've gone in this, quote, low-fat diet, obesity has soared through the roof.
Well, 60% of the solid weight of your brain is fat, and low-fat diets just, I mean, you know, and some of
So
you,
literally
you're on
we're fatheads.
cholesterol medications, and high cholesterol, not good for you. Low cholesterol is associated with homicide, suicide, depression, and death from all causes. So, and the American Heart Association just came out and said, oh, it's not the fat you eat, it's the sugar. If you show this slide, I love this, because this is Rick 5.5 years ago, and this is him just a few weeks ago. You can see the radical change in his life. And my goal is he doesn't have to gain it back and then 3 years from now be here and having lost it again. It's how do you develop the longevity of habits? And we're going to talk about that. And so I put this at the end. You told that story. But getting healthy is an act of love and mercy. So if you love your families, you will demonstrate a healthy life. The next thing is know your important numbers. These are just, and you know, take a shot with your cell phones or whatever. We have this in the Daniel Plan materials. And basically, you can't change what you don't measure. Which is why the initial Daniel Plan rally, we took everybody's BMI, you know, your weight versus your height, because, you know, if you're overweight, BMI of 25 to 30, you have 4% less brain tissue, and your brain looks 8 years older than healthy people.
Well, let me stop right there. A lot of you guys are businessmen. This is a principle of business. You can only manage what you measure. If you can't measure it in your business, you can't manage it. That's a business principle, but it's also true of your health. That's why when you go to a doctor, he puts a thermometer in your mouth, writes down a number. He takes your blood pressure, he writes down a number. He looks in your ear, he writes down a number. He takes your pulse, he writes down a number. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's why he says you got to know your numbers.
So put the numbers back up, if you will. And I'm not going to go over all of them, but a couple of them are really important. Fasting blood sugar. As your blood sugar levels go up, blood vessels become brittle and they start to break. And that's a problem because it puts you at risk for strokes, heart disease, premature aging, and Alzheimer's disease. Vitamin D. 2/3 of us in this country are low in vitamin D, the same number of people who are overweight. And when vitamin D levels are low, the hormone leptin that turns off your appetite doesn't work anymore. And why are we so deficient in vitamin D? Because the dermatologist made us afraid of the sun. So even if you go in the sun, that you're wearing sunscreen and your skin is not able to absorb the sunlight that turns vitamin D on in your body. All of
So
you
you're
should
actually
know.
hungrier? You're actually
You're
hungrier?
actually
When you-
hungrier.
When you don't have vitamin D, you're actually hungrier.
You're hungrier, and you can't turn off your appetite. So those numbers are very important for you to know. So here's one of my friends, Mark Laser. He's actually a world expert Christian on sex addictions. And I was at dinner with him a couple of years ago in Nashville, and he's overweight, and I watched what he ordered for dinner, and you know me, I'm sort of a pain in the neck.
You are.
And I saw him inject himself with insulin at the table, and I'm like, Mark, how tall are you? He said, I'm 6 feet. I said, how much do you weigh? He said, I'm 243. So I'm typing in my phone. I figured out his BMI. I'm like, dude, it's 33. You're obese. And he said, Daniel, you're so cold. And I said, not nearly as cold as you're going to be when you're dead. And about a month later, he wrote me a letter, and he said he'd lost 10 pounds. And he thanked me for the hard discussion I have. And the picture next, I was just 2 years later in Nashville. We were lecturing at the same conference. And he'd lost 53 pounds. He cut his insulin dose in half. And I said, because a lot of people think, oh, the Daniel Plan's hard. It's like, I said, so was it hard? He said, no, being sick was hard. This is easy. He said, I was already in a routine. It was just an awful routine. Now I'm in a routine, and the sex is better because it's about blood flow, right? You have these high blood sugar levels, it erodes your pipe, your erections aren't, oh, I'm sorry, there's some women here. Your erections aren't so good. Do you want to have a gift for your wife? You know, we want you to stay virile so that you can engage in one of the most special things God has given us. The next part is move daily,
Get
be
moving.
strong. Because the stronger you are as you age, the less likely you are to get Alzheimer's disease. And I have this picture up here because this is Garrett Howig. He's one of the doctors in my clinic, and he totally is on board with what we do, and you can see how strong he is. But then he went to Hawaii and jumped in a pool that had a bacteria called leptospirosis in it. That when you get it, it kills 80% of people who are infected with it. And he came back, he had high fever, ended up in a coma, and the only reason he got out of the hospital alive is he went into the hospital with muscle on his body. So you should always be lifting weights and being strong, especially the older you get, because frailty kills more people than being strong. And you're working on that.
Yeah, actually, one of the key things for me is variety. I get bored really quick. If I did the same thing every day, some of you like routine. I hate routine. Some of you eat the same thing every day. I hate that. I want something different every day, and I like routine every day. And so Tom, stand up. Tom Wilson has been my trainer for many, many years, about a dozen years. And Tom, we worked out 3 different workouts that we do. One of them is a weight workout, which is good. But if I did weights every day, I'd get so bored with it. We do a pool workout, and I really like that, and that's a lot of fun. And then the third one, and I'm not doing it right now because of this knee, is it's hiking. And so we alternate between those 3, and it keeps me from getting bored. But the main thing is move every day, and get moving, get moving, get moving. And there's so many, Fitbit things and stuff like that now you can actually, count your steps and stuff like that. And the main thing is just get moving. And because as a pastor, I spend a lot of times, like, to write a message takes me 16 to 18 hours. Okay, that's 2 full 8-hour days to write that weekend message. So it will take all day Friday and some a little bit of Thursday and then Saturday morning. Well, that's a lot of time sitting in front of a computer. And sitting. Sitting's the worst thing in the world for you.
It's like smoking.
It's like, go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, no, they're actually saying that the more you sit, it's like smoking for this century, sitting. So, you know, wearing a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or whatever, just to remind you to get up and move. And one of the best things you can do for your wife is go for long walks with her or do an activity with her. And I remember Steve, that he said, well, I don't like exercising. He says, but I do like playing ping pong. And it's what I do. And so we used to play. I actually play 3 times a week because it's the best brain game. You got to get your eyes, your hands, and your feet all to work together while you think about the spin on the ball. And so coordination exercises work out a part of your brain called the cerebellum in the back part of your brain, that when this thing fires right, you can think quickly. And it also helps with forethought and judgment. So pick something you like, but you should be lifting weights just to keep yourself strong.
Bones.
And what they're finding is running for a long distance may not be as helpful as bursting for short distances. And so put interval training. So if I get on a treadmill or a stair stepper, you know, I'll go at maybe 3.5 miles an hour for a little bit, and then I'll ramp it up to 8 miles an hour, and then I'll come back down. So if you only have a short time, think of doing burst training.
The only other thing I want to say about this before we move on is that it is counterintuitive, but you got to expend energy to get it. You know, we don't think that. When you're tired, you think the last thing I want to do is go expend energy. Let me give you an example. This morning, Tom and I worked out. We had a pool workout today. And Monday after Mother's Day, and I had, I won't tell you all what happened after Mother's Day, but I had a pastoral care crisis that went to 1 a.m. in the morning. After preaching all of the services on the weekend, I went home and cooked Mother's Day meal for 7 moms in my family. I'm talking about aunts and grandmothers, and 7 moms and 22 people, and they were all there. And then I cleaned it all up because I wasn't going to let the girls clean it up. And then about the time they were cleaning up, we had a pastoral care crisis that kept me up, and I was very busy for another several hours. So I was going really pretty slow today, and but I knew that I needed energy for tonight. And so really what I did is we had a workout, and we did a workout, and you give it what you've got. And if you got 75, Tom just says, give me whatever you got. If you got 50%, give me your 50%. If you got 75%, give me your 75%. Okay, and today he got whatever I got, and I'm here. So.
And you'll feel better. That's what people say over and over again. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. The next one is sleep. I mean, this is a huge issue for you.
This was the #1 weight gaining cause in my life. I have been, I was born with a brain disorder. Many of you have been around long enough know about this. That makes sleep very, very difficult. I take a medicine for Parkinson's. I don't have Parkinson's, but I have the same kind of tremors that Parkinson's take. And I've had numerous sleep studies all my life. I went to Hoag once, and they said, you're waking up between 300 to 400 times a night from these tremors, these lightning jerks that were waking me up. And the medicine that I take, there's side effects of that. I've had it all my life. It was a thing. And so much of my life sleep deprived, really sleep deprived. And I can't imagine how much energy I have if I actually got sleep. Because for literally, probably the first 25 years of Saddleback Church, I was often working on 4 hours of sleep a night. Lack of sleep, as your sleep goes down, your weight goes up. As your sleep goes down, your hunger goes up. The less you sleep, the more non-resistant you are to temptation. You're setting up for temptation.
You're right, because as your sleep goes down, blood flow to the front part of your brain. So think of the front part of your brain as the most human, thoughtful part of your brain, largest in humans than any other animal by far. It's 30% of the human brain, 11% of the chimpanzee brain, 7% of your dog's brain, and 1% of the mouse's brain. Okay, so it's a part of your brain that makes you human. And if you get less than 6 hours of sleep at night, you have lower overall blood flow to the front part of your brain, which means more bad decisions. And
So if you're serious about getting healthy, one of the first things you got to do is start getting more sleep.
I mean, if you just take away one thing tonight, focus on getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night, because we now know, just new research, that at night your brain cleans and washes itself. It actually gets rid of the junk that causes things like depression and Alzheimer's disease. So if you don't sleep enough, it's like you don't give the cleaning crew enough time to reset your brain for the next day.
So in January, when I started again on Daniel Plan, I said for the first month, I'm going to be in bed by 9 o'clock every night. I said, there's nothing on TV at 9 o'clock that's more important than my health. There's nothing more important than me having more energy the next day. And so that's a pretty early time. I'm not, I'm a pretty much of a night owl, and I can stay up all night very easily. But during January, just to get started, I was going at 9. Now, sometimes I'll go 10 o'clock now, sometimes a little bit later. But I'm always trying to make sure that I get, and so the truth is today, Monday happens to be my day off because of this pastoral care crisis that I had to deal with last night. Didn't get to bed till 1. I slept till 10.
I love that.
It's my day off, but I'm just going, I am not going to deprive I've got to put the right stuff in, but I've also got to get the right amount of sleep so that my mind can give me the power to make right choices.
And it's all about decisions. So I just did an NBA challenge. So I work with the NBA with the referees, and we did a 60-day Love My Brain challenge. And the head of the referees says, what's the one thing I should do for my brain? Make better decisions. So we're going to talk about that. But if you don't sleep, the quality of your decisions will not be good. If you look at the slide, new study out on soldiers. So soldiers who got 7 hours of sleep were 98% accurate on the range. Those who got only 6 hours of sleep were only 50% accurate on the range. Just the difference of 1 hour. In fact, we know if teenagers sleep on average an hour less than their peers, they have a higher risk of both depression and suicide. If you get 5 hours, you're only 28% accurate. And 4 hours, these people are dangerous, only 15% accurate. So, the three things for sleep: you got to care about it, so I call it sleep envy. Got to care. Avoid anything that hurts it, so you have to turn the gadgets off. The room needs to be dark. It needs to be a little cooler. And, I would say kick the pets out because they're going to wake you up. You don't need them.
Let me say, one of the big things that made it worse for me for many, many years is I would go directly from the computer screen to try to get in bed. And that blue light coming through the screen is the whole thing that's stimulating, and then you're not going to sleep well.
And what it does is it turns off the production of the hormone melatonin that is telling you to go to bed. So you can wear blue light blockers or get blue light blockers on screens. There are a lot of people that sell those. Or the best thing is turn it off an hour or two before you actually go to bed. So sleep envy, avoid things that hurt, and then do things that help it. And, the things that really hurt sleep: caffeine during the day. So I'd get rid of it past noon. And alcohol. And people go, well, I use alcohol to go to sleep. Yeah, but it only lasts a couple of hours, and as it suppresses your brain, then it rebounds in the middle of the night, and your brain's going like this, which is, of course, a bad thing. So 5 decisions. So how do you make great decisions? Well, one, you have to know your why. You have to keep your blood sugar stable. So this is one of the things that we talk about, is you actually have to eat consistently in order to lose weight and stay healthy, because otherwise, if your blood sugar goes low, blood flow to your brain goes low too. So you want to always keep a stable, not high, but a stable blood sugar, and that comes from consistently eating fat and protein throughout the day. So if
Did
you
you hear
think
that?
of nuts.
Did you hear that? Consistently eating fat and protein throughout the day. Keep it alive. How many times, I bet almost everybody in this room has probably done this. I'm going to lose some weight. So what you do is you fast for breakfast, and then maybe you eat a little bit at lunch. By the time you get to dinner, you are starving to death. And between dinner and when you go to bed, you eat everything you could possibly eat. And the longer you watch TV, the more you eat. That's the absolute worst thing of fasting and then putting it all at the bottom.
Okay, we have one other founding doctor that's been listening in the whole time.
Oh, that's
Dr.
great.
Mark Hyman.
That's great.
And he said he has way too many things to talk about, and he wants to jump in. And when you started talking about fat, he started texting me,
Yeah.
because Dr. Mark Hyman just wrote the book Eat Fat, Get Thin,
Yeah.
and he really wants to join you guys. So can you
Put him on.
enfold him into this conversation?
Can we see him?
Hey, Mark.
Hey, buddy.
Okay, perfect. Let's
Hey,
give
Mark.
him a big round of applause.
Hey, Mark. I just want to point out that Dr. Mark Hyman, my favorite Jewish doctor, along with the two of us, was the co-author of the Christian Book of the Year this year. Okay? Daniel Plan, I don't know if you know this, Daniel Plan won the Christian Book of the Year for 2015. This book won the Christian Book of the Year, and so he's the only Jewish doctor to write a Christian Book of the Year, all right, with Daniel me. So.
Actually, I wanted to call it the Jewish Doctor's Guide for Christian Wellness, but you guys wouldn't let me do that. I don't know why.
Good to see you.
So I'm so excited to be with you guys. You know, I've been listening to you guys talk, and you're hitting all the right notes. And Rick, I have to say, I haven't seen you in a while since last fall, and you just look amazing. I mean, I was just shocked when I saw you. You've lost so much weight. You look so good, and your eyes are clear. Your face is shiny. Your hair looks good. I mean, look
Oh,
at
my
you.
complexion's your schoolgirl complexion now, so.
No, his skin looks beautiful.
You know, and you know, I think what was amazing is it's kind of shocking, right? Because you're saying you weren't really worrying about the calories; you were eating a ton of fat,
Not at all.
and all these things got better. All your symptoms got better, and your blood test got way better. And you know, we had such a myth around fat in our diet in this country. I think one of the things that I think some people probably saw in the news this week was the Biggest Loser story. It was like the #1 most shared story in the New York Times about the Biggest Loser, where they did the study of the 14 participants over 6 years, and they found that they lost weight, like some of them lost hundreds of pounds, and yet their metabolism slowed down. And then when they gained the weight back after the show, they actually had a slower metabolism. They gained most of the weight back. And yet no one talked about what really goes on when you do that. And so I think people get very discouraged about weight loss. They say, well, you know, it's very hard to maintain, it's very hard to do. But actually, when you eat the right foods, you literally speed up your metabolism. So in fact, when you're eating fat, it's sort of contradictory, because we're all taught that the fat you eat ends up as the fat on your body. But we now know that when you eat fat, it actually speeds up your metabolism.
Okay, hang on a minute. Did you hear that, guys? When you eat fat, it speeds up your metabolism. Fat doesn't make you fat. Carbs make you fat.
Wrong. Sugar makes you
Sugar
fat.
makes you
And
fat.
foods
Sugar makes
that
you
turn
fat.
to sugar. So,
Yeah,
Mark,
exactly.
are you going to stay with us for the rest of this? Okay, so let me put up this slide, because I want to just finish the decision-making part, which is so crucial. And then we're going to get into food, which Mark will help us with. So if you want to make good decisions, which is ultimately the quality of your health, comes down to the quality of the decisions. So know your why, get sleep, eat enough to keep a stable blood sugar. And then can you put up the slide? Little to no alcohol. Alcohol drops the decision-making part of your brain. So if you're having trouble at night, stop thinking about wine as a health food, because people who drink every day have a smaller brain, and alcohol, we know, consistently increases your risk for cancer. And then, of course, pray, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, which are the neon signs that you pass by when you're hungry, because you haven't eaten the right protein and fat throughout the day. Okay. Next slide is drink water, not your calories. I don't know, Mark, if you were involved in the New York, they had this great campaign of don't drink your calories. On average in America, we drink 450 calories a day.
Wow.
Where
Wow.
30 years ago, we only drank 225 calories a day. So the difference, the extra 225 calories a day, if you multiply that over a year, it's 23 pounds of fat a year on your body. No wonder we're always on a diet. So stop drinking your calories, but hydrate, and you should have about half the amount of water in ounces as you weigh. So I'm 150 pounds, so I should have about 75 to 80 ounces of water a day. New study that people who are well hydrated, so before you go in the pool or before you lift out, you have 19% increased strength, which is just critical. And if you're dehydrated or your kids are dehydrated because you're letting them have those caffeinated awful things, they become cognitively impaired. So whenever you're dehydrated, you become cognitively impaired. Mark, you want to say anything about that?
No, I think that the data is so clear that if you have liquid sugar calories, which is, people don't know they're having healthy sports drinks, they're having their coffee at Starbucks with the lattes, which are 750 calories of sugar if you get the big one. I mean, people don't know that Starbucks is basically a sugar dispensary masquerading as a coffee shop. And we're drinking so much of our diet as sugar. 15% of our calories is high fructose corn syrup, which is mostly sugar. And it's the biggest thing that's linked to obesity, to diabetes. And it's not just regular soda, it's also diet drinks. Diet sodas is another big thing. People don't know that when you drink diet sodas, you actually get hungrier, it slows your metabolism, it tricks your body. So the whole control of your weight and your metabolism gets distorted, and you actually put on weight, and you get hungry, and you end up eating more. So diet sodas aren't the answer either. And I think, Daniel, you're right on. If you have liquid sugar calories, it's the biggest way to gain weight and to cause disease. So cutting those out is so. I know one guy, he cut out soda. He lost 75 pounds just cutting out soda. And that's all he did.
So don't drink your calories. The next slide. See if we can. Hello. Thank you. Famous bodybuilder. This is actually Bill Phillips. I don't know, Mark, if you can see this, but he came to me, and his brain scan, that's what we do at Amen Clinics, a study called SPECT, is full of holes. And I'm like, is he a cocaine addict? Why does his brain look so bad? And what he'd done is purposefully dehydrated himself for a photo shoot, so he'd looked ripped. But you can see how it drops the function of his brain. The next day, we scanned him hydrated, and it was much more normal. So make sure you're drinking lots of water.
So if you don't have enough water, you don't think straight?
You don't think straight.
I need to be drinking more water before Sunday morning. I'm serious. It made me think about that. It's like,
And it also, because when you lose a lot of weight like you did, what fat does is it protects your body from toxins. So when you lose a lot of weight, it releases a lot of toxins. So if you're losing weight, you want to be drinking a lot of water.
Okay.
So 100 ounces or 120 ounces a day would be great for you. Now, do you like water?
I love water.
So
I love
go for it. And I always, I like put a little lemon in it, or, cut up a tangerine and put it in it. And I'm drinking spa water, like I'm at the Grand Wailea. And, it's all a mental thing, right? I mean, I'm like spoiling myself. Getting well is never, really important point, never about deprivation.
And by the way,
It's
a lot of
about
times,
abundance.
I've noticed, a lot of times when I think I'm hungry, I'm actually thirsty.
Right.
I think, man, I'm hungry. But if I go grab a bottle of water and drink it, I go, oh, I was really thirsty. I wasn't hungry.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Smart carbs. So here, it's why I wanted to correct you.
Exactly.
Carbs are not the enemy. You need them.
Yeah.
It's dumb carbs. It's carbs that make you dumb over time. So what we talk about in the Daniel Plan is low glycemic, high fiber carbs. So carbs that do not raise your blood sugar. So if you don't know about the glycemic index, you totally should know about it. And we basically want you to get rid of anything that is going to damage your blood sugar levels. So sugar, but the things that are actually worse than sugar? Bread, pasta, potatoes, and rice. They actually have a higher glycemic index than table sugar. And so,
Are you kidding me?
I'm not. I'm dead serious. Table sugar is like 72, and bread is like 110.
Well, I know you taught me that when I look at a bowl of rice, I may as well be looking at a bowl of sugar. Because when I eat it, as soon as it hits my body, it's turned into sugar. And when I look at a bowl of pasta, it's as soon as I eat it, it's turned into sugar inside me. So don't think of it as like, oh yeah, which is kind of strange because so much of the health food stuff, looks like it's good, but it's actually just sugar.
In fact, if you look at most the labels, I had the best experience. So you've met Chloe. And Chloe, often will push back. But now that she's going through puberty and her skin started breaking out, she's like, what should I do? And so we actually spent 90 minutes in Whole Foods reading labels. And at the end of it, she's like, Dad, it's all crap in here. And you have to read the labels and learn. And Mark has said this many times. If you read a label and your grandmother wouldn't recognize it as food on the label, don't eat it.
Mark's favorite line is, if it grows on a plant, eat it. If it's made in a plant, don't eat it. Twinkies don't grow on plants.
Even the better one. There's even a better one, which is, leave the food that man made and eat the food that God made, right? Did God make a Twinkie or a can of Coke? Nope. Did he make an avocado? Yep. It's pretty simple. You look at it and say, who made this? Was it God or man? If it was man, just put it back.
So some examples. Mark, what are some of your favorite smart carbs?
Well, I think, the truth is that most of your diet should be carbs, and they're the most important things you need for health. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about vegetables. Vegetables are all mostly carbs, right? Broccoli is a carb, asparagus is a carb, salad's a carb, tomatoes a carb, carrots a carb. It's all fine. And those actually should be about 50% of your plate. So if you really think about carbs as the containers of plant foods, then you should be eating a lot of plant food. It's the wrong carbs, like you said, the dumb carbs are the problem. And those are anything that's made of flour or sugar. Basically, if you cut out flour and sugar from your diet, you are going to have an enormous change in your health. And I always say, think of them as recreational drugs, right? You might like to drink a glass of wine, but you know that, you're not going to drink 2 bottles, or you're not going to have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have sugar for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm staying at a hotel in Utah, visiting my daughter. And I went downstairs to the hotel and I look at the breakfast and it's like dessert. It's like muffins and, bagels. It's all sugar for breakfast. And I think if you understand that you need to kind of think of it as a drug that you use occasionally as a treat for fun, fine, but it's not a staple in your diet. The average American has 152 pounds of sugar and about 146 pounds of flour a year. That's about a pound a day combined for every man, woman, and child. No, I'm not having that much. Some of you out there are having a lot more, and that's the problem. We're all eating so much of this stuff that's actually killing us. And I think if we just were able to get a handle on that and eat all the starchy, non-starchy vegetables as the staples of our diet as carbs, we're going to be great. Also, nuts and seeds contain carbs, and sweet potatoes contain carbs. Those are all fine. I think it's more the flour and starch. Now, beans and grains are another category, but they are also potentially starchy. So if you are very overweight, if you have a big gut, and belly fat, that is dangerous. That organ fat is really the dangerous fat. That's actually can be also contributed to by eating too much grain or too much beans. So some of it's okay, but you shouldn't be having, even if it's whole grain brown rice, that's still, if you eat 2 cups of that still turns to sugar in your body. So half a cup is fine. And if you're really trying to lose weight, Rick was on no grains, no beans, and tons of fat and protein. And protein is also important because protein actually splits kinds of protein.
Nanu.
R2D2. We're losing you, Mark. Yeah, no, we lost you. You turned into R2D2.
All right, let's wrap this one up. Go to the next thing.
We have to go on. So smart carbs. All right. Where are we at? There we go. Oh, I got to tell you about this study from the Mayo Clinic. People who have a healthy fat-based diet, 42% less risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Hello.
People who have a healthy protein-based diet, 21% less risk of Alzheimer's disease. But people who have a simple carbohydrate-based diet, bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, fruit juice is not a health food because it's unwrapped fruit sugar or sugar. 400% increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. It's the sugar and the foods that turn to sugar. It is not the fat. Okay. You want to build a routine. Everybody's got a routine. You have a routine now. Now, I know you don't like, you can change up the routine, but exercise is important to be in your weekly life, right? 2, 3, 4 times if you can.
You know, this started with me at Christmas. We do a thing called Birthday Party for Jesus every year in our house. We've done it 53 years. It's a family tradition. Started when I was very young, actually now 60 years. And every year we go around the room and we say, what's the one thing we're going to give Jesus this year? And this Christmas, my gift to Jesus was healthy routines. That's what I said. I'm going to give healthy habits because you are the sum total of your habits. Your character is your habits. If you want to change your life, just change your habits. And if you develop good habits, they will replace the bad habits.
And whenever you do something, it's actually building a track in your brain. And the more you do it, the stronger it is. So initially, getting on the Daniel Plan will seem hard, which is why there are support groups and support material. But over time, and that's why I've come to believe you really have to do it for a year to get it. You have to build new brain tracks so that when you look at the donut, you actually see it for what it is, which is poison that is going to take you out early rather than something you want. So that mind shift, actually, it takes some time. So build a new routine. Train your mind. So here we talk about ants, automatic negative thoughts. They're the thoughts that come into your mind automatically and infest your brain. And you have to be good at getting rid of them. And so just a really simple exercise. Whenever you feel sad, mad, nervous, or out of control, write down what you're thinking and then challenge it. Don't believe every stupid thing you think.
Yeah, we're going to do a series later on the mind, on the brain, the mind, and your thoughts. The Bible has a ton of stuff to talk about controlling your thoughts. Your thoughts determine your life. We're going to do that probably this fall.
And if you allow your mind repeatedly to go to negative things, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this, my wife is mean, whatever it is, then you're going to strengthen that. You're going to strengthen that notion in your head, and it will control you. I would prefer, John 8:32, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So I want you questioning your own thoughts, and then learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, by the way, on that other thing, I've told you this before, you don't have to believe everything you tell yourself. Just because you tell yourself something doesn't mean it's true. So you don't have to believe every thought you have. If you often have a thought, and you go, well, I think it, so it must be true. Well, not everything you tell yourself is true. You lie to yourself all the time. In fact, you lie to yourself more than you lie to anybody else in life. You lie to yourself more than you lie to anybody else in life. And so you need to learn to question your truth. The Bible says bring every thought into captivity. In other words, you need to go, is this true? The Bible says test every thought.
And if you don't question it, you believe it, even if it's a lie, and then you act out of that belief. So you have to be very careful with your thoughts. And then the next point is we all make mistakes. And I want you to be curious about the mistakes that you make, not furious with yourself. So the fact that you've gone up and down, like I for a long time went up and down, it's when you stop being mad at yourself and you go, so why did that happen? I didn't sleep. I waited too long to eat. I believed every stupid thing I was thinking
I
that
traveled.
day. I traveled. I changed time zones. You know, all of these things. If you can just become curious about the mistakes that you make, you'll be able to learn from them and grow and be better over time.
That's good.
And so
That's
it is just so important. It's being merciful with yourself. And then 2 more points. You got to give it away. Ultimately, you get well, you have to teach someone else to get well. And if you're the head of your house, work with your wife. And if she won't do it, work with your kids. And if they won't do it with somebody at work. Join a Daniel Plan group. My experience, when the mom gets it, things may or may not change at home. When dad gets it, everything changes.
How many of you know that's true? Yeah. Mom gets it, it doesn't always change everything, but if dad gets it, it changes. And that's why, you know, I said Sunday I was embarrassed for our gender when I heard that 80% of the people doing Daniel Plan at Saddleback right now are women. I'm going, oh, great. I get to be the pastor of a church of fit moms and flabby dads. Or fit women and flabby men. I go, no, that's not a good thing. And so we've got to support each other. One of the geniuses of the Daniel Plan is you don't do it by yourself. You got to get a small group or get a partner, get somebody who's working with you. There are days I would not work out if I didn't have Tom with me. And there are days that, you know, I need to call Daniel Amen or somebody to call. And you just need to have, encouragement in your life. You will not stay on this by yourself. You just won't. And the genius of the Daniel Plan is the community around it. We get better together. We are better together. And that's why we have different sports ministries, and we have fitness ministries, and we have all kinds of different things. God never intended for you to make radical changes in your life by yourself. You need to find somebody else. Go, hey, will you just be my partner? Let's just check each other on this and celebrate our wins and encourage each other.
So if you put the slide back up. So we've been at the Daniel Plan for over 5 years, and I could summarize it in these 4 lines. So get the information we're teaching you. Then give it away, because it is in the act of giving that you actually create your own support group, making it more likely you're going to stay on this forever. So that's how you keep it, and that's how together we will change the world. And I grew up Catholic, like, not kidding. My mom was serious, and until I realized if I was going to be a priest, it'd be Father Amen, and I went, no, that won't work. No, that won't work.
Father Amen.
But my favorite prayer in Catholic, when I was an altar boy, was the prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. But toward the end of the prayer, he writes, for it is in the giving that we receive. And I never sort of got it until I did the Daniel Plan. And I would see people giving it away, creating their own support group, making it more likely they would stay on it forever. So join a group. That is so important. And then the last point, I just have to tell you this story, and I'll do it very quickly. Do any of you have a difficult dad? So I had a difficult dad. Stubborn, powerful. He's chairman of the board of a $4 billion company. And he would never work on getting healthy. I told him I wanted to be a psychiatrist, and he asked me why I didn't want to be a real doctor.
Wow.
Why I wanted to be a nut doctor and hang out with nuts all day long. And then when I got healthy, because I was looking at people's brains, he goes, oh, now you're a health nut. And then, so it wasn't good. But I love him dearly. And then about 1.5 years ago, he got really sick. In fact, he used to always say, I don't get heart attacks, I give them. So that was his mantra. And then he got congestive heart failure. And he was in a chair for 5 months, couldn't drive, didn't go to work. And one day he looked at me with just the saddest eyes, and he said, Danny, I'm sick of being sick. What do you want me to do? And he was just so stubborn. He did everything immediately. we assessed his brain, we checked his important numbers. He would text me food labels, can I eat this? He ended up eating perfectly. That's a perfect Daniel Plan meal. He worked out, he changed his habits. In 6 months, he lost 40 pounds. He got off the couch.
Wow.
He started driving. He works every day now. He has a Fitbit. He's competitive with me. It's so irritating. And one more, he can do a 3-minute plank.
A
He's
3-minute plank?
87 years
87
old.
years old, 3-minute plank.
So here's my promise to him and to you. My dad will be better at 90 than he was at 60. He
Wow.
just has to be serious because what we're talking about is very serious for your health.
All right. Cool. Thank you, guys.